I found the ring while reorganizing my desk. It was tucked in the back corner of the bottom drawer, inside the little velvet box he had used when he proposed to me. Soft blue, fraying at the edges from time. The moment my fingers touched it, chill slid down my spine. I hadn't seen it in 2 years, not since he vanished. He left no note, no explanation. Just stopped answering calls, blocked me on everything, disappeared like vapor. One day we were tasting wedding cakes, the next, he was gone, ghosted. At first I thought he'd been in an accident. I checked hospitals, called his family, even drove to his apartment. Nothing. His mother was vague, almost cold. Said, "Men get scared sometimes," and closed the door on my face. I grieved like someone had died. Maybe he had, or at least, the version of him I thought I knew had. My mother had to pry the ring out of my hand the night I collapsed. She said, "Give it time, baby. You'll see." He wasn't the one. So I boxed it, buried it, tried to move on. But 2 years later, here, it was, on my desk. Not in the shoebox in the closet where I had last left it. Not even in my room. It was in the study, the shared one, where my sister, Marissa, did her design internships and printed out endless vision boards for weddings and Instagram content. A quiet panic began to rise in my chest. I walked down the hallway of our family home, heart pounding, footsteps light. Her door was half open. There she was, sitting cross-legged on her bed, scrolling on her phone, grinning, and on her left hand, glittering under the golden light of her ring light, was my ring. My ring. I knew that stone like a fingerprint. The tiny nick on the side from where I'd dropped it once. The soft twist of the band. He had it made to match the northern lights, he'd said. Because that's what your eyes remind me of. I didn't realize I had stepped inside until she looked up. "Oh," she said, startled. Then smiled. "You saw?" My lips parted, but no sound came. She held her hand up like a debutante. Crazy, right? I didn't expect it either. Not from him. I thought he hated me. My blood froze. Who? Her smile widened. Damon. The room tilted. Damon proposed to you? I asked, barely hearing myself. Marissa tilted her head, as if genuinely confused by my question. You're acting weird. You weren't still hung up on him, were you? I thought you said you'd moved on. My voice was hollow. You knew we were engaged. Were you, though? She said, tone airy, like it was ancient history. He never filed the paperwork, and he said you two weren't even living together, that it ended before it really started. Honestly, it's not that deep, Sophia. She giggled, and then she said the thing that split the world in two. He said the ring always looked better, on me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, the world collapsing inward. Because in that moment, I realized the most important truth of all. This wasn't an accident. This had been planned. He hadn't just left me. They took something from me, and smiled doing it. Marissa floated around the house like she'd grown wings. White vision boards lined the dining room walls, overflowing with gold-foiled stationery samples and flower swatches that looked like they were stolen from my Pinterest. I recognized everything. She was using my ideas. The ones Damon and I once sat on the couch designing together, me in his sweatshirt, Him teasing me that I'd pick 5 shades of sage and still call them green. Now he was helping her plan our wedding, and no one said a thing. My mother hummed happily as she arranged silverware samples. My father joked about open bars and father-daughter dances, his voice light in a way I hadn't heard since before Damon vanished. Even my cousin Maddie, the one who once cried when Damon proposed to me, was now calling Marissa the luckiest girl alive. No one even asked if I was okay. They acted like none of it had ever happened. That night, I lay in my bed listening to Marissa giggle on the phone in the next room. No, she was totally cool with it. I think she's over him. She didn't even cry. Pause. Then laughter. Right? I thought she'd flip. Something ugly twisted in my chest. I wanted to scream, to burn the entire lie down. But I didn't. I reached under my bed, pulling out an old binder. Dusty, water-stained, half-forgotten. Inside were receipts, photos, contracts, proof, hotel bookings, ring design sketches with my initials, a venue deposit under Damon's name, with my email, seed, emails from vendors addressed to Sophia Reyes and Damon Kincaid. He had proposed. He had planned to marry me, and now they were pretending none of it ever happened. The next morning, I came to breakfast dressed. Makeup done. Hair curled. Marissa blinked. Whoa, you look awake? I smiled. She stared at me, then shrugged. Well, if you're free later, I could use help picking a cake flavor. Damon said he trusts my gut, but you know I hate choosing. I held her gaze, then tilted my head. Sure, I said, happy to help, because now I had a plan. The bakery appointment was a surreal experience. Watching Damon stand beside my sister, hand on her back, wearing the same cologne that used to make my pulse race, made my skin crawl. But I smiled. I even offered to take photos when they were fed frosting samples. Marissa laughed when he dabbed a bit on her nose. I watched silently, memorizing the curve of his hand, the smirk he always used when he lied. It hit me then. He didn't just disappear. He traded up. In his mind, I'd been the draft version, the warm-up act, something soft and useful, but temporary, and Marissa? She was the shiny version, the one who didn't ask questions, the one who came with a family that bent over backwards to please her. A prettier packaging for the same story. That night, I took the photos I'd captured and printed 2 sets. One I kept, the other I mailed, anonymously, to a name Damon probably hadn't thought about in years. Leah Whitmore. The ex before. Me. The one he ghosted right before I met him. Because if there was one thing I knew about Damon Kincaid, he didn't recycle rings. He recycled people. The guest list was posted on the fridge a week later. Marissa liked the aesthetic of printing everything on creamy cardstock with gold script. She said it made things feel more real. Personally, I thought it made things feel permanent. Like the world had chosen a side, and it wasn't mine. I ran my eyes over the list slowly, like reading an obituary. Marissa and Damon, parents of the bride. Javier and Elena Reyes, bridesmaids. Maddie, Lexi, Jules, Christina, groomsmen. Andre, Kellen, Wyatt, Dylan, guests. Over 100 names. Family, friends, co-workers. But not mine. I wasn't on it. Not as a bridesmaid. Not as a guest. Not even a mention in passing. My name was gone. That night, after everyone went to bed, I stood in front of the fridge with a Sharpie in hand. I stared at the list for a long time. Then, I drew a single black line through my parents' names. I wanted to feel something. Anger, satisfaction, rebellion. But all I felt was silence. Like something inside me had gone to sleep, waiting. Over the next few weeks, the wedding engine roared louder. Fittings, cake tastings, rehearsal dinner bookings, group chats with pastel names, and emojis I wasn't invited to. One evening, I walked into the living room and found my mom holding a delicate lace veil up to Marissa's face. Damon stood behind them, arms crossed, nodding as if he had any taste. "You're going to look like royalty," my mom whispered. Marissa beamed. "It's from Mom's side, right?" I stared. That veil had been stored in a sealed box. My grandmother's, worn by exactly 2 women, her and my mother. Meant for one of us, but always spoken of as mine. I knew, because when I was 15, Grandma whispered it to me after our last Sunday lunch. "When the time comes, Sophia, it's yours." And now, they had unboxed it without even telling me. They were going to give it to her. That night, I visited my grandmother's storage chest. There, hidden under quilts and old family photographs, was the one thing I knew they'd forgotten. A small, velvet-lined notebook with pressed flowers between the pages. Grandma's journal. Inside, on a page dated 10 years ago, in delicate cursive. "Left to Sophia. My wedding veil, tucked away with love, to wear when she finds someone who loves her. Like she deserves." The next page was blank, like the ink had known what was coming. I photocopied that page and tucked it in my pocket. The veil wasn't just fabric. It was a promise, a symbol, and now it was being worn by the same woman who wore my ring. I didn't go to war that night. I didn't scream, but something hardened in me. I started calling venues, quietly, anonymously. I found the one they'd booked, a beachfront place 2 hours away. Then I found the photographer they hired, the florist, the caterer, and I began building a folder. One by one. Every vendor, every receipt, every piece of paper tied to their fairy tale. Because fairy tales don't end with kisses and roses. Not this one. This one ends with truth. And I wasn't going to knock on the door. Was going to walk in with the key they all forgot I had. It started with the florist. I waited until dusk, when the house was quiet, and Marissa's door clicked shut for the night. Then I logged into my laptop and opened a new email tab. Marissa had used my old wedding planning account. I could tell from the receipts she left on the dining table. Same username, same password I once shared with her when we were still sisters. Before the poison set in, she never changed it. Rookie mistake. I scrolled through the vendor list until I found what I needed. The florist, lavender and bloom. Subject line, urgent. Change in floral theme message. Hi, Rachel. Apologies for the late notice. We've decided to go with a completely different color palette. Please switch all florals from blush and white to deep burgundy and navy. No roses. Bride is allergic. Let me know if this affects anything. MI reread it twice before hitting send. Not enough to trigger alarm, but enough to create chaos. 3 days later, Marissa shrieked so loud I nearly dropped my mug in the kitchen. "Burgundy?" she screamed from her room. I leaned against the door frame. "Everything okay?" She held up her phone. The florist said the entire shipment came in. Dahlias, peonies, dark lilies, not a single rose. And navy ribbon? Who the hell told her navy? I feigned a frown. That's weird. Didn't you confirm the order? I did. I think I did. Maybe she got us confused with another client. She tapped furiously on her screen. Damon, standing nearby, rubbed her back half-heartedly. Babe, don't worry. We'll fix it. But I could see the crack in his jaw, the tension, the way he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. The chaos was beginning. That same night, I opened the wedding photographer's contract. Another recycled vendor. Another email I had access to. Another small correction. Subject line. Update. Groom's name spelling message. Hi Tony, just a heads up. The groom's name is spelled Demon, not Damon. It's a family thing. Just want to make sure it's right on everything. Signage, albums, etc. Thanks. Why that detail? Because I knew Marissa was obsessive about aesthetic. Her bridal signage was already printed. Thousands of dollars worth. And I just made sure none of it matched his real name. Over the next week, I made 4 more adjustments. Swapped the DJ's playlist for a jazz mix she hated. Canceled her spray tan appointment. Claimed food poisoning. Confirmed. Her bridesmaid dresses were lime instead of sage. Told the caterer she was vegan now and not to serve. Shellfish tiny things. Not enough to ruin the day, but enough to unravel her illusion of control. But the best twist hadn't happened yet. That came when she called me, of all people, to vent. God. She sighed through the phone. I swear, something's cursed. Every vendor's confused. The florist sent the wrong palette. The photographer spelled his name wrong. And now the DJ's playing Frank Sinatra on our walk down the aisle. I'm starting to think someone's screwing with me. I let silence stretch, then said softly, maybe they just forgot who the wedding was really for. She didn't get it, but she would. That night, I received an email alert from the venue. Rehearsal dinner confirmation, Sophia Reyes. Your private dining reservation has been confirmed for Friday, 7:00 p.m. Sunset Hall. Guest of honor, Sophia. Reyes, it wasn't the family venue. It wasn't their wedding rehearsal. It was my own reservation. Private, exclusive. The night before their ceremony. Because while they were busy ruining my past, I was quietly reclaiming my future. The veil was scheduled to arrive on Friday. Marissa had it professionally restored, paid extra for same-day delivery. It was going to be her something old, despite knowing it was never hers. She called it a symbol of family legacy, posting about it with hashtags like a blessed bride and the family tradition. But tradition wasn't on her side. Truth was. And I had the handwriting to prove it. 2 nights before the wedding, I visited the church, not for prayer, for placement. I'd spent the last week researching their ceremony layout, their digital programs, their photo booth prints, even the guest welcome signs. Everything was overproduced and overexposed, perfect for disruption. I didn't need to scream. I just needed one moment to speak louder than their entire lie. I pulled out the copied page of Grandma's journal. The original stayed locked away in my room, but this scan would do just fine. At the top, I added one clean line. For every truth stolen, there comes a reckoning. I made 50 copies, folded them neatly, tucked each one into a cream-colored envelope stamped in gold. From the Reyes family. A message from the past. The morning of the wedding, As guests arrived and picked up their monogram programs, they also received my envelopes. It looked official. It looked planned. It looked like it belonged. Just like I used to. The chaos began exactly 20 minutes before the ceremony. I was at the back of the church, dressed in soft beige, blending in like any distant cousin. I wasn't on the guest list, but I didn't need to be. Half of these people didn't even know who I was. But they'd know soon. Gasps moved like a ripple through the room. Guests looked at one another, whispered. My aunt, sitting in the front row, held the page with trembling hands. Wait. Elena, didn't you say this veil was passed to Marissa? My mother froze. It was, she said, voice too firm, too fast. But the page in my aunt's hand said otherwise. Left to Sophia. My wedding veil, tucked away with love. When she finds someone who loves her like she deserves. Marissa didn't know yet. She was still in the bridal suite, posing for photos. But Damon, he was standing by the altar, scanning the crowd, face paling. He recognized the quote. I had read it aloud once, lying next to him on my bedroom floor after Grandma passed. He even kissed my cheek and said, Your grandma had good taste. He didn't look romantic now. He looked exposed. And then the music began. The violin swelled. The guests turned. And there she was. Marissa, my sister, my betrayer, wearing my ring, wearing my veil, walking down an aisle lined with people holding my name in their hands. She didn't see it at first. She smiled like a queen, but the whispers caught her ear, the confusion, the stares, the one man who wasn't smiling, Damon. By the time she reached the altar, her voice cracked. What's going on? She hissed. Damon didn't answer. Neither did the crowd. But I did. I stepped out from the side pew, silent, holding the original journal. No rage, no screaming, just the truth in my hands. Marissa's eyes widened. Sophia. I held up the journal. You stole the ring, the dress, the story. But this... I pointed at the veil. This was never yours. A hush fell like thunder. I turned to the crowd. Some of you know me, some don't. But I was engaged to Damon 2 years ago, until he disappeared, with no answers, no goodbye. A low murmur began. He didn't start over, I said. He recycled the same story. And this family helped him rewrite it. Then I stepped back and let the silence speak. I didn't stay for what came next. I didn't need to. Truth, like fire, doesn't need help to spread. And in that church, where they tried to erase me, I became unforgettable. They tried to carry on, they really did. After the veil, the journal, the quiet wrecking of Marissa's big moment, there was a pause, long and awkward, where no one knew what to do. Damon looked like he might bolt. Marissa was flushed and frozen. My mother stared at me like I was a ghost who'd walked back into the house she burned down. And then, like a machine desperate to restart, someone cued the music again. Marissa pushed through it. She smiled tight, tears glittering, and whispered to Damon through gritted teeth, Smile. Walk. We are finishing this. He didn't move. Not for several seconds. But then, under the pressure of eyes, cameras, expectations, he nodded, slipped his hand under hers, and led her toward the Vows fake ones now, built on rot. I didn't stay to hear them. I left before they could say, I do. The reception was supposed to be held at the Marina Grande. Waterfront, glass ballroom, strings of fairy lights across a pale sky. I knew because I'd toured that venue once. With Damon. He said, "It's too fancy for me, but for you, I'd do it." Now he was walking into it with her. I wasn't invited. Obviously. But again, I didn't need to be. Because I wasn't done yet. While they were clinking glasses, I was meeting someone 2 blocks away. Leah Whitmore. Yes, that Leah. She sat across from me at a downtown cafe, sunglasses on, dark lipstick, holding a manila folder like it might catch fire. "You were right," she said. I nodded. "About?" She slid the folder toward me. Inside, old texts, copies of emails, a few blurry photos of Damon, dates and timelines stamped clear. He ghosted me in January 2020, said he wasn't ready. Then I saw a post of you two at a vineyard that February. I thought maybe I imagined it. But when your name popped up again, I thought I imagined it too, I murmured. She looked at me. You said the ring looked familiar. Did it have a nick near the side stone? I blinked. Yes. Leah smirked. He gave it to me too. I left the cafe with a hard knot of clarity sitting in my chest. Damon didn't just lie. He recycled love stories. Same ring, same speeches. Same kind of girl. And we, me, Leah, maybe even others, had just been props in a performance he kept trying to perfect. But this time, the curtain had fallen. Back at the reception, Marissa was unwell, at least according to Maddie, who texted me photos from inside. Maddie. Girl. She hasn't eaten. She's just crying in the bridal suite. Damon is drinking like crazy. He snapped at the DJ. Maddie. Also. Why are people talking about a journal? Did you really drop receipts at the altar? Maddie. NGL, I kinda respect it. I didn't respond. I just opened Instagram, and there it was. A tagged photo from the reception. Damon Kincaid, face pale and strained, caught mid-conversation with Marissa's uncle. The caption read, "Hope the next ring you recycle comes with better karma." The whispers were spreading. Vendors were canceling posts. The photographer archived the sneak peek reel. A few influencers who once praised "Damn Marissa forever" had already taken down their congratulatory stories. It was all unraveling. Not because I screamed, but because I showed the truth. And now, they couldn't make people unsee it. Later that night, I took out the ring box again. The one with the tiny blue velvet edges, still faintly scented with the past. I opened it one last time. Then I walked outside, into the cold, and tossed it into the river behind our house. It didn't feel like a grand finale. It felt like clearing space. The days after the wedding felt like the aftermath of a slow-moving hurricane. Nobody said anything to me directly, but the silence around the house buzzed with tension. Mom barely made eye contact. Dad tiptoed around like a man walking on broken glass. And Marissa, she stayed in her room for 2 days. The blinds drawn, door locked, her bridal bouquet wilted in the hallway like a ghost of the day she tried to steal. I passed by it once, the petals already browning at the edges, and thought, it aged. Exactly like the truth, beautifully, and without apology. I didn't go out of my way to cause more damage. I didn't need to. The ripples were doing the work for me. Vendors quietly withdrew their social posts. The venue manager left a polite voicemail, asking if any misunderstandings needed resolving. Her designer bridesmaid dresses, the ones she'd begged the bridal party to wear, were popping up on resale sites within 48 hours. Even Damon vanished again. According to Maddie, he left the hotel after an argument with her dad and hasn't been seen since. Classic Damon. But I wasn't watching their wreckage to revel in it. I was free. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to explain why I wasn't chosen, why I wasn't enough, why the people I gave my heart to passed it along like a dress that didn't quite fit. I started running again. Mornings, early, breath burning in cold air. Evenings, headphones in, world out. Each mile felt like scrubbing layers of their voices from my skin. Then, one night, it came. An email. Simple subject line. Subject, I owe you the truth. From damon.kincaidemail.com. I stared at the screen for a full minute before opening it. Sophia, I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I saw what you did. At the church. And it made me realize how much I underestimated you. You were always better than me. Smarter, steadier, more real. I think I resented that. I ran because I didn't know how to be the man you deserved. With Marissa, I thought maybe I could rewrite the story, start over. But it was always your story. I'll leave you alone now. I just needed you to know. It was never about her. It was always you. D.I. read it once, then deleted it, because I didn't need his confession. I already had my closure. The next day, I walked into a quiet downtown building, one I'd passed 100 times but never entered. Inside was a bright, sun-drenched studio with blank walls, tall windows, and a for lease sign now sitting on the counter. The agent greeted me. Looking for something long-term? I looked around. Yes, I was. That night, I sat with my journal, not my grandmother's this time, but my own. Clean, fresh pages, and wrote 4 words at the top. This is my beginning. 6 months later, I opened the doors to my studio. TTI brass sign above the entrance read simply, Sophia Reyes Creative Studio Interior Design. Restoration, event vision. It wasn't huge. But it was mine. Hardwood floors, whitewashed brick walls, dried eucalyptus in vintage vases. The kind of space that spoke in calm confidence. A place where I could bring ideas to life, mine and others. Not stolen, not borrowed, earned. The first booking I received came from someone who had quietly followed my work through whispered referrals. A woman planning to leave a marriage after a decade of shrinking herself for others. She didn't want help picking linens. She wanted a space for reinvention. I knew exactly what that felt like. I said yes. Word spread fast. My Instagram account, once dormant, now pulsed with interest. Women, professionals, creators, survivors, reached out with questions, ideas, stories. I wasn't just designing spaces. I was helping people reclaim them. For the first time, I wasn't living inside the background of someone else's life. I was the headline. One crisp spring afternoon, I returned home to visit my parents. Mom opened the door slower than she used to. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Marissa wasn't there. She'd moved out 3 months after the wedding. No surprise. The marriage had unraveled by the honeymoon. Damon never returned from whatever mess he walked into. I heard from Maddie. He was seen in Arizona, chasing some coaching startup. Good. Let him keep chasing ghosts. I sat with my parents in the kitchen. They didn't bring it up. The wedding. The veil. The journal. But when I stood to leave, my mother placed something small in my hand. A photo. Me and Grandma. I was maybe 12, in overalls. Paint on my cheeks. She was holding my hand, pointing to the corner of her garden on the back, in Grandma's script. She sees beauty where others forget to look. I looked up. Mom didn't speak. She just nodded, eyes shining with apology. It didn't fix everything, but it was enough. Later that week, I stood at the front of my studio, locking up for the evening. The sunset poured golden light through the windows, and my reflection smiled back at me in the glass. Not the girl who was left, not the sister they forgot, not the one with the missing ring. Just me, Sophia Reyes. Whole, honest, unshaken. Because sometimes what's stolen gets returned in pieces, but what you rebuild from the ashes, that's yours forever.